make a great case of when women didn't have rights, even here in the U.S. They can go after groups such as African Americans. They could go after Italians and the Irish, and they could say, "Hey, look, this system that's in place had a history of putting you down. And here, let's look at some statistics. If you look at economically or culturally or the prison system, there are certain groups that they're still targeting." And then they give you these statistics. They don't tell you that that the laws are designed to in a perfect world be more equal protection for everybody. And so, no, just why are you off? Why are you off mute? Why are you off mute?
Because I'm trying to engage you.
I know, but when you were speaking, I was on mute. This is what conversations are like. Just fucking mute your goddamn mic. I will fucking unmute myself. I will mute myself when I'm done, and then people can speak. And that invites everyone to speak, not just people named Gildas. So I just laying this out there that they have changed. The argument is no longer solely based on class. The argument is now based on immutable characteristics, which is why you now have the Marxists and all of the identitarians grouping together to come after the system. That's what's happened, and people need to identify that that's what's happened. But Gil...
Yeah, I always respect your rhetorical stance. I know how you get down. It's okay. I don't take offense to any of it for anybody who might else want to speak up, in the room. But my question is, why is it that the college students don't grow out of it? They don't grow out of, what I would call brainwashing from their professors and start trying to get married, start trying to buy homes and say, okay, wait a minute. What Professor Marx told me does not play out, so I will vote against that. Why is it they're graduating from NYU, they're graduating from Columbia, and they're still adamant about democratic socialism, which is just dog walking you to communism? Why do they hold on to these ideas so why do they embrace them so much and they can't let it go and understand? Because you were making the example, of course, about what Churchill said, once you're 30 or 40, you should grow out of those ideas. But why is that not happening in America? Or is it not, or is it is happening and we just don't hear from them?
Can I comment to that?
Yeah.
Please.
I think it does. To some extent, it does happen with the ones that have success that come out. I think as they look at their first tax bill and what they're about to get hit with, especially the ones living in New York. If they're living in Manhattan, they're working Wall Street. I think that some hard realities hit on their social dogma that they've had, or what they have this inertia and energy about coming out of indoctrination. And by the way, I was going to ask them, leave this as a side question, if any of you remember back in college having professors that were just so far left or so completely immersed in socialism or communism, because I had a joint major with political science, and I definitely had professors like that. But, you grow out of it as you get into business and you gain success. And I wonder with the ones, Gildas, that went into finance, I don't think you see these kinds of crazy advocates for communism or socialism all graduating from Wharton. They probably don't tend to go to business schools. But there I'm sure are some there. But again, as soon as they have the hard reality of seeing the difference on what their capital gains would look like under a Harris administration, or just what their tax bills look like, and where their money goes, they shift. That's my thought.
Can I respond to that, or do you want to just let another person go, Mojo? I'm just trying to respect the room, because I want to respond to that.
Why don't you respond to that, and then let's get some other voices in here, because I do want to. There's some really smart people on the side.
I know that. I see them. But I'll just say this, and I'll make it quick. Yeah, you do have people leaving Wharton, and they know what's up, but the vast majority of people graduating out of these schools are just going to become teachers because they don't know how to practice what it is they majored in. And they're becoming teachers, and they're teaching the students, and they're influencing the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the scientists even, which is scary. But they're telling them, like, you got to be altruistic. You can't rise higher than the lowest person behind you. You can't do that. So everybody is kind of infected by these ideas. But these teachers, they're the main ones to go back and become professors. I'm one of them, but I'm not like them. And they're telling these students, Bernie Sanders was the right way. Socialism is the right way. That's the only way we'll fix this country, redistributing wealth. And so I think it's like, the last thing I'll say is like, maybe it's just an outsized majority of people who are coming out of all of these schools, from the Ivy League to the community college where I teach, where they're sending these students out into the world believing that you should eat the rich. I'll land right there.
I was just going to add something too. I think Abby's right. I do think that you do see a proponent of the students that come out of school, and as they maintain success, they start to see it. But I'm going to take it a step further and go back. I think that a lot of the nuclear family in this country has really been destroyed, and I think a lot of people, parents anymore, take the easy way out. It's much easier to drug your children, put them on meds to cope with anxieties, to handle behavioral problems. We as a society anymore, we don't teach our children how to cope with the fact that, guess what? Life is not always fair. Bad things happen to good people, just like bad things happen to bad people. And we've kind of shirked that responsibility because children don't do what you tell them to do. Children do what they see role modeled for them. And so I think it's kind of a call to, the homes of your children. Like, we know that the schools are like this. We know that the colleges are inundated with a lot of this socialist and Marxist thought process. We need to be teaching our children how to critically think. We need to be teaching our children how to challenge the status quo. We need to be prepping them and preparing them from a very young age to understand that, you work hard to obtain the things that you want. And I think there's just been a real breakdown there. And I think that that's what we're seeing societally now is, parents have gotten lazy.
If I may speak, since there's been a gap, as a professor at a community college, and I have tenure there now, one of my responsibilities is to look at some of the adjunct professors and make sure that they're abiding by, the standards in the curriculum. Like, are they teaching the students to write 10,000 words? Are they ready to transfer to a UCLA or UC Berkeley, et cetera, et cetera? And I go and visit one professor. Please don't dox me about this because I'm just being upfront about it. I went and visited one professor's class, and he's playing video of Bernie Sanders. In his syllabus, he says he's an avowed socialist. He says this. This is what he says. And he's like, we need to get rid of Donald Trump. Kamala Harris isn't even the one for us. We should be voting for Bernie Sanders, and we should have socialism because capitalism is evil. It exploits the poor, et cetera, et cetera. This is what's in his syllabus. And these are first-year students. They're just coming out of high school. So most of them are 17 and 18 years old. And then I observed him for 1 hour. He proceeds to kind of dog walk them. He says, so why should we be against capitalism? And they're like, yeah, well, because capitalism is evil and we shouldn't do that and we should redistribute income. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but this is like the gist of what I'm trying to get at, for you guys. And I came away from it and I said, look, he did have them write a paper about it. He did have them look up resources online and find MLA documentation. So he was right for that. So he should not be fired. He should not be let go. But his political stance is, in my opinion, indoctrinating, because those students don't know how to challenge him. They don't know how to stand up and say, well, wait a minute. What happened with China? What happened with North Korea? He's not going to talk about that. That was nowhere in his lesson plan or his syllabus. So how do you even confront this shit?
Yeah, I think the common thread here is that there's a lot of activist teachers that are more interested in telling people what to think rather than teaching them how to think. And I think there should be just more attention brought to this fact. And by the way, parents, where are their responsibilities in this? When their kids are like, oh, hey, I'm about to finish high school, I can get into a university, sit down with them and talk to them about, like, okay, is this an institution of higher learning that's going to prepare you for a career and to help you, learn how to think better? Or is that an indoctrination camp that's going to poison your mind with a bunch of dog shit? I will say I'm very happy to see the current trend of people recognizing. By the way, when the left says that they want a refund for their fucking college education, they're even quietly acknowledging that the education's not worth anything. Because if they were teaching them something valuable, they would have just paid off their fucking their bills and it went along, went down the road. I think the conversation now